Greetings, greetings, greetings. Let's see if we can get this going again. This time, maybe, hopefully, it'll start working without any problems.
Without any.
I guess we're going to find out. Trying to get this everything set up. If you hear the occasional loud motorcycle coming by, it's okay. It's part of it. I got the window open today so that I can kind of enjoy a little bit of the weather coming and going. Anyway, start waiting for a few people to get the notifications. Oh man, maybe I can see. That would be nice. Getting old is difficult. Greetings and greetings and greetings. I'm gonna see. Can you hear me? Okay. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay. I got the window open a little bit, so I could kind of get some of the. Sounds good. Great. 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 Try to get some of the air in today. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I wanted to talk just a few minutes today while I've got time. Um, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To everybody joining, big salam. I just wanted to talk. God bless you too. I wanted to talk quickly today about our identity and the things that we hold on to in our identity that cause us problems that we don't even realize that we're holding on to. We have these labels that we put on ourselves, and these labels are in a variety of areas of life. And when we have these labels, they help us to get by in our day-to-day lives to a degree, but they're really self-limiting in how they limit our growth and our ability to experience new things. Because what happens is when we place identities and labels on ourselves, what happens is we close the door to possibility. And when the door to possibility is closed, then the door to growth is also closed and you remain very rigid. So, as an example to this, I wanted to ask quickly, um, what is one label that one of you may put onto yourselves that you don't even realize? So, if I say, like, for example, Miriam, who are you? What is a label that you would give to yourself? A mother, okay? A mother. So, you would call yourself a mother because you have children, right? Well, and that's an example of labeling. But what happens is whenever you over identify with your label, it causes you suffering. You don't realize that it causes you suffering because on days like Mother's Day and you know, within Islamic, of course, every day is supposed to be Mother's Day, but within special days, right? If you don't receive that special thing from your family um, to recognize you as mom, then this would cause you a bit of suffering, even though it causes you joy as well to see the kids grow, so on and so forth. Well, the problem is not so much that you label yourself, it's that you over identify with the label. So anything that challenges that identification with the label is what causes you suffering. So, for example, you label yourself as a mother, and if someone says you're a bad mother, this will cause you to get angry, right? I'm assuming anyway. And now we wait for the yes or the no. Right. Okay. So the problem isn't with the label of mother because you willingly take on that label of mother. The problem is whenever somebody might say that you are a quote unquote bad mother, that causes you a bit of suffering, right? So, likewise, when somebody says that you are a good mother, it causes you a bit of happiness, temporary pleasure. You would call it pleasure because happiness is a state of being. It's not something that is fleeting, comes and goes. So when you over identify with your label, no matter what that label may be, it causes you suffering. We just don't realize that it causes us suffering because we're so busy piling all these labels on us. When we're born, we're fresh, we're clean, we don't have anything labeling us or identifying us. We're just a baby. We're a baby. And we don't have any of these concepts and these ideas that are put on us yet. So what happens is as we grow, the people around us start to place different labels on us based on their own personal identity, right? Because they have all experienced certain things in their life, no matter what those things may be, whether they be good or bad. They may have went to the masjid, may have attended church, they may have had no religious upbringing, and instead they've been in a totally secular mindset, and their main pursuit in life has been higher education. Or maybe you're from East Tennessee and your main pursuit in life has been lower education and beer drinking and being a hillbilly, you know? So even the hillbillies have these labels that they put on themselves. The problem that we're having is that our suffering is rooted in this identity, and we continue to pile on more and more labels as we age rather than stripping them away. Oh, my Stream Elements bot is running. Oh, that's great. So far, any questions? Any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions? Please put them in the chat. I'd like to make this as interactive as possible for anybody who may be interested in pursuing this conversation instead of just listening in the shadows. That would be great. Even if it's a negative comment, a comment is a comment. Tennessee, United States, Tennessee. To be more specific, East Tennessee, which is a totally different mindset and frame of existence from Western Tennessee or even Middle Tennessee. Oh, that's a good question, Miriam. What would I identify as? Well, like anybody else, in order to have my day-to-day interactions and my day-to-day existence, I would place certain labels onto myself and identify as certain things, right? A father, a brother, a son, a co-worker, a uh, all all of the typical self identifying characteristics, right? That we have to have these in order to make our ease of use in our day to day life. But on in the absolute sense of the term, it's like I think it was Walt Whitman who said, and I mentioned this in one of my content videos recently, that I believe it was Walt Whitman who said, "Do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I'm large, I contain multitudes." And what he meant by that was we all have all of these different aspects within us of good and bad, right? Some of us would label ourselves as being quote unquote good, better than others, right? Because we practice this or we practice that or we follow this to the letter and we follow that to the letter. However, we're also lacking in certain areas. I don't believe that anybody is all good or all bad. I believe that um, based on experience, and this is not just on personal belief, right? Because there's a difference in belief versus evidence that we can weigh. I have seen very good people do very bad things, and I have seen very bad people do very good things. I have seen very good fathers be very bad fathers, and I have seen very good mothers be very bad mothers, and vice versa. So, whenever you label yourselves as any one particular thing, then you are limiting yourself. And that's kind of the entire point of the conversation is. So when it comes to quote unquote having an identity, I would say that I'm constantly evolving in my growth. And I think that that's what we should all strive to do. You have to consider the possibility that you may, in fact, be wrong about some things. You have to consider the fact that everything you consider to be true may in fact not be true. It may be true only subjectively speaking, meaning only to you. I apologize again for the noise. There's traffic going on, but I wanted to experience a little bit of the good weather while it was while I had an opportunity to do so. But when it comes to identifying the self, you're just layers and layers, of built up years of conditioning. But who you are at your very essence is what you have to find out. And I believe, as far as salvation goes, each person can work out their own salvation. I believe that we're all suffering from mental illness. We all have mental illness, and these mental illnesses are caused by our over identification with these labels that we put on ourselves. Anyone who challenges the label that you put on yourself causes you a bit of stress and suffering. Somebody may call LP, LP is not a good Muslim. LP is a bad this or a bad that. Or they may also, in reverse, on the reverse of that, say you're a great this or you're a great that. Either way, this will cause you either happiness or pain, right? Pleasure or pain. So each of you have to work out your own quote unquote salvation. There are plenty of sheikhs and scholars and imams and uh, priests and preachers and holy men, and now you got this dude coming out claiming to be the Mahdi. You have all of these different people out there who are willing to try and lead you to your salvation, and I think that you each have a mind of your own in order to try and look at this salvation for yourself and figure out exactly where what is true for you. Truth is a subjective thing, right? We can't say that we have truth in the absolute form. And that's going to probably make a lot of people mad and say, oh, brother, this is this and this is that. You know, you're more than welcome to your opinion about it. But I believe that whenever I say that I have truth in its absolute form and I try to place that truth onto somebody else whose life experience has given them a different set of circumstances, then I'm doing nothing but causing that person pain. And I'm also causing myself pain and suffering because I'm now stuck in the position to try and convince them to adopt my way of life or my viewpoint. And in reality, I should be more willing to accept them for who they are and allow them the space to have the growth that they have. I spent a great deal of my life trying to make the effort to change people and who they were. And what I should have been doing was accepting them for who they are and placing them in my life where they needed to be placed based on who they presented themselves to be. Right. Think of a lot of our pain and suffering could be eliminated if we would do that. That's an opinion. Again, who am I? I'm nobody. I'm some dude on YouTube. You know, I'm some dude on YouTube. Questions, comments, concerns so far. Yeah. Yakub said 100% for real. What you see today is relevant. You may not see as relevant in 5 years. You may not see as relevant next year. You may not see as relevant tomorrow. That's the thing about life. It is ever changing and ever evolving. Even when you don't see change happening, it's happening behind the scenes. The big question is whether or not you're willing to open your eyes to that change and accept it as it comes, right? You can change for the better, you can change for the worse, but nothing will ever stay the same. Nothing will ever stay the same. LP says, pondering the nature of Allah's creation. Mm, ponder all the creation, right? The wind beneath the bird's wings that keep it up, right? The fact that your heart beats every day, all of these different aspects. But ask yourself, how does that fit into change, right? The creation changes too. Seasons change, right? The seasons change. Everything is changing. Death happens so that new life can happen. Life happens so that death can happen, so on and so forth. So you have to look at it from that perspective. You don't have to. Granted, you can stay stuck on stupid if you want to stay stuck on stupid. I know a lot of people who are stuck on stupid. I've spent a great deal of my life being stuck on stupid. Now I'm making the effort to break free from that and to evolve from that. Right? That's a big thing. Your self-limiting beliefs of who you are. I really think about that. I really think about that a lot. And I think if you really want growth, you have to be willing to accept that. Sound off if you're with me. We all, I was thinking about this too. A lot of times we're so quick to judge other people and other groups of people, but what we don't realize is the very group of people that you're judging is the very group of people that you need in order to feel self righteous and holier than thou. That's a big issue too, right? The Christians need the Muslims in order to feel superior to somebody, to try to feel superior to somebody. The Muslims need the Christians, and so on and so forth. Down the list it goes. That seems to be a real thing, and whether we like to admit it or not, if everybody was the same and everybody had the same beliefs and the same ideals and same value systems, who would you have to uh, who would you have to compare yourself to? And that's what happens when we live in a world of duality, uh, on the surface, which is non-dual in nature. And then you're talking about a whole nother can of worms that not a lot of people are prepared to have the introspective thought about. Right? That's a big deal. Polarities exist, right? Left and right, up and down, black and white, hot and cold, so on and so forth. There's polarities within existence, and that's just the reality of it. But those polarities are actually a singular thing on the in the sense of absolute terms. So you have to look at it from that perspective whenever you start to open your eyes to the interconnected nature of everything. Everything is interconnected. Everything is interconnected. Everything. The good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful. You would have no idea of what beauty is unless you knew what ugly was. You would have no idea of ugly unless you knew what beauty was. It is mind blowing. Miriam says, yeah, it's mind blowing. It is. LP says, I ain't stuck on stupid, but I'm a bit stuck from being stupid. Aren't we all, huh? Aren't we all? That's a big thing, too. We have to be able to admit that, right? In order for us to have growth. The biggest problem that you can have is whenever you realize or you think that you don't have a problem, right? That's the worst problem to have. That's why drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and stuff like that is so bad because most people who have those addictions don't realize that they even have the addiction. They think they don't have a problem. I've got it under control. I've got it under control. They don't have it under control. They don't realize that they have a problem. And these things bring temporary pleasure. They bring temporary satisfaction. They're not bringing real happiness, but they're bringing temporary pleasure. And the result of that is that it continues, right? Everybody's main purpose in life is one of two things: to avoid pain and to seek pleasure. That's what motivates most of the decisions that we make, consciously and unconsciously. All right. If we do something that makes us step outside of our comfort zone, it's going to cause us pain, right? So we try to not do those things. Even if we take a chance, a lot of times people will be in an abusive relationship. Men and women will stay in an abusive relationship because it's a comfortable situation for them because it's what they know. When you step out of the known into the unknown, it's what causes you pain. And everybody's searching to be more, to expand themselves, to be more and more and more, right? That's the thing. That's the thing. We all want to be more. We all want to be bigger. We all want to be greater in some area, in some way. We don't realize that it's okay to just be a human being. Being. Being, right? Being. B E. Be. Human being, not human doing. But we're so wrapped up in our labels. We've been taught that success is a byproduct of pushing and striving and grinding harder and harder, right? And it's okay to grind. I'm not saying it's not okay to try to chase success, but chasing success, like Yakub said, money can buy comfort, but not contentment. Not contentment. You think that the things that you're purchasing with your money will bring you contentment, and they will temporarily. But if it were the case that that would bring you long term satisfaction, then you wouldn't continue to strive to want more, to buy more, to get the next new thing, right? How many people are throwing away marriages and relationships just because it's not easy anymore? Now they have to do the work. There's work that's required in everything. If you buy a new car, it requires work as well, requires maintenance and upkeep, so on and so forth. There are things that are involved with any type of newness. That's where it always happens. Yakub said true growth often happens where comfort ends. That's where it always happens. I've never had a point in my life where I have experienced a true amount of forward momentum and growth unless it was preceded by some type of pain or dissatisfaction, right? Some type of terrible situation. Usually, the worse the situation is, the more growth is experienced on the other side of it, and that's just the reality of it. That's just the reality of it, and it's been that way since the dawn of time. Since the dawn of time. If I said, Miriam, I'm going to make you the queen of the universe, the queen of the galaxy. You would say, well, that's great. And in 6 months, you would want to be queen of the universe. You know, if I told Yakub, I'm going to make you, you know, Mr. Olympia, tomorrow you would want to be Mr. Universe. And that's the thing. All of our minds are entrapping us. All of our minds are entrapping us. It's our desires and our attachments and our own minds, our labels that we label ourselves. All of these things are, and they're extremely, extremely irrelevant when it comes to the meat and the potato of things. It's crazy. Miriam said, definitely ain't that the truth. The son of Adam will never be satisfied until his belly's filled with dust. And even then, he won't find satisfaction if he didn't make some sort of effort in life. I don't think that there's ever a satisfaction. I don't think that there's ever a satisfaction. I think that detachment is the only thing that brings true satisfaction. It's okay to love a thing, and it's okay to desire a thing, but the problem is when you over identify with that love and with that desire, and then you refuse to let go of it when it served its purpose. That brings and breeds toxic behavior. But that's what we're taught to do from childhood. We're taught to scream and throw a fit till we get our way. And then when we get our way and we see that the screaming and throwing the fit gets us our way, it reinforces that behavior. And then the cycle repeats and continues. But all of these things are placed on us by the society surrounding us, right? Or our set of circumstances. You would never know that pizza was great if all you ever had was steak, for example. Steak is amazing, right? So you say steak is the best food in the world. How do you know if you've never had pizza? How do you know if you've never had such and such? And that's the thing. You grew up thinking all things were this way, and you believed that to be true, but never questioned why is it true. You never sit down and ask yourself, where does this come from? Why do I feel this way? What are my beliefs? Are they limiting me in my growth, or are they serving me to better myself and in turn to better humanity? Big thoughts. Big thoughts. Things I think about often recently. Who are you from a psychological level? Who are you? We can say that we all have one thing, right? We all have one thing. So no matter what our differences are, you may be black, white, Asian, American, Native American, Indian, Pakistani, whatever. You may have all of these differences among us, but at the base level, we're all human beings, right? Some of it's questionable. Some people you look at and you go, it's questionable if they're a human being. Look at the way they're acting, right? But a lot of times, the way they're acting is also a result of their environment. So this goes on from nature to nurture, the conversation of, was I made that way, or did the society I was raised in make me that way? Or does it go hand in hand? Is it a bit of both? But you can have all of these differences, but you're human being at the base level. You all have conscious awareness, right? All of us have conscious awareness, meaning you're awake, you're alert, you're conscious, you know what's happening, you have awareness. So you have these types of things. All of us do. All of us do. I mean, other than the exception to the rule, the people who are in comas and things of that nature, who are unconscious but still living, their bodies are still living, their brains are still showing activity, but they're not conscious. We even have activity when we sleep, unconscious activity when we sleep within our brains, right? So, but we all share humanity and we all share consciousness. We have that amongst all of us. So, regardless of the outer shell that you're wearing, whatever outfit, whatever mask, whatever costume that you're putting on, whichever persona that you are right now, at the base level, you're still a human being and you still have conscious awareness, just like your neighbor who is completely different from you, who may be a Mexican Catholic, for example. I have Mexican Catholic neighbors, right? We have these different outer shells, but at their base level, they're human, that we share humanity, and we also share in common the fact that we have conscious awareness. Because of that, we can meet in the middle on that level alone. You should be able to, right? And then you say, well, do you want to make the world a better place? Well, what is making the world a better place? What is that? What does that mean? I guess it depends on where you're from and which side of the line you're standing on, right? Like everything else, it's all subjective. It's all subjective. We can say that there are innocent people being killed, there are innocent people being unalived in the world. Hadn't that always been the case? Hasn't it always been the case? Hmm? Look at the Quran, for example. Khidr, did he not unalive somebody and then Musa didn't understand, right? He said, why have you taken the life of the innocent boy? And he told him what? What did he say? He said, don't ask me about things that you have no understanding of. So you want to make the world a better place, but you're wanting to make it a better place based on your expectations, right? On your personal beliefs, on what you believe is right and wrong. There are certain cultures in the world, for example, that eat different forms of livestock. Some people eat horses, some people eat camels, some people eat dogs and cats. And we look at it and we say, that's crazy. That's crazy. But you weren't raised that way. So, of course, it's going to look crazy to you. If you're from the United States and you go to an Arab country, for example, and you see the men dressing in long thobes, you're going to say, why are the men wearing dresses? Right? You're not going to understand that. So you're immediately going to snap to a judgment based on the labels that you have been given by your respective society and by the people that you've surrounded yourself with. And the same can be said for that. Somebody who may live in the Amazon forest, who's naked all the time, who's a hunter gatherer. They're literally naked all the time, have bones piercings in their bottom lip because in their tribe, that's their thing. Then they come to America and they see people wearing clothes. So they come to Asia and they see people wearing clothes, whatever the case may be. They're going to look at that and say, that's crazy. That's crazy because they haven't experienced that. Right. You ask who of you ask one of us who is God, who is the creator, and you're going to get one answer. But when you go into the Amazon forest, I watched a documentary. They interviewed a tribe and they asked the tribe leader who was God, and he said meat. He said meat. Meat is God to them, right? So it's all a matter of his perspective, of their perspective. Meat is God to them because that's what it takes for them to survive. Because their basic needs aren't met like ours are. We live in such a comfortable society. We live in such a comfortable society that we're free to ponder these types of things. But for them, something as simple as having their daily needs met will seem like God to them. If I take 100 of you, if I take everybody in this chat or 100 people in this chat and I stand them in the middle of the Texas heat, right? Or the desert heat, it's 110 degrees, and I keep them out there for 2 hours, no water, right? Fully clothed, just standing in the sun, just standing in the sun. Shade will become God to them because they will want that shade more than they've ever wanted anything. They will want that more than they ever wanted anything. And as soon as they seek the shade and they find reprieve from the daily sun, the heat, that's relieved. Now they're free to focus on something else. Now that's going to happen. Now that's going to change. What their perspective is on what matters the most at that point in their life will matter. You tell somebody he's dying, and all of a sudden, his perspective shifts. He has a new game to play. He has a new game to play. His priorities are suddenly different, right? You tell somebody if somebody wins the lottery, their perspective suddenly shifts. Now the things that they used to prioritize, rent, car payments, so on and so forth, are no longer important. That's handled. Now what? Now what? Which is usually why drug and alcohol addiction comes to the people who receive large payouts in settlements and win lottery and things of that nature. So all of these things are constantly fluctuating. It depends on where you're at mentally, right? Forget about the spiritual aspect of it. Like I said, work out your own salvation. Seek a sheikh or an imam or a scholar or a preacher or whatever it is that it's your cup of tea. Look for that elsewhere. I just want you to question your suffering and the identity that you've created for yourself and you are so strong in, and how it's causing your suffering or at least contributing to it. It may not be the total cause of it. You may say, my ex wife is causing me my suffering. What do you mean, bro? And your ex wife very well may be causing your suffering to a degree. But that's also a collective thing of your own personal choices. Again, based on your own identity and your own beliefs. I'm not saying that other people can't contribute to the pain that's in your life. But what I'm saying is we're the result. Our pain is the result of the sum of our choices usually. And the sum of the choices of other people placed on us as we form our identity as we grow up. And it's one thing to stand for something, right? They always say you have to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. And that's great advice to a degree. To a degree, I believe that's great advice. But the older I get, the more that I see. I don't know if you guys know what a oak tree is. I don't know if you where you guys are located in the world. Like, what is an oak tree is one of the most firm trees that there are in East Tennessee. Okay, in my area, geography wise, it's it's large, very dense, and very thick branches, very strong tree. If you placed an oak tree on the beach in a Category 5 hurricane, it would snap like a toothpick because it's not made to sustain hurricane force winds. It's not flexible in nature. Firm, sure, it's firm. And in this area, that's great. In this area, that's great. Why? because most of the time we don't have category 5 hurricanes most of the time. But if you place a palm tree on the beach, palm trees are flexible in nature. And the flexibility allows them to sustain and survive category 5 hurricanes. And being a human being is no different than that. You have to have your beliefs. I agree. Right? You don't have to. I guess you could be fluctuating in nature. It's all part of the human condition. But for the most part, you want to have some type of path to set yourself on, but you also have to be like the palm tree rather than the oak tree. The palm tree can sustain category 5 hurricane winds, rain, weather. The oak tree cannot. The oak tree is firm, firmly rooted, firmly grounded, but its branches are too dense. It's too firm. It cannot sustain that type of changing environment. Palm tree can. Water is no different. You put water in a glass, water will sustain your life. It will sustain your life. You take a teaspoon of water and inhale that, and you're dead. You're dead. It takes a teaspoon of water to drown you. To drown you. It will take your life, a teaspoon of water, but you can have the same glass of water to keep you alive. Water takes on the form of whatever it's around. Water can flow peacefully through a stream, or it can rage mighty through a river and destroy a whole town, as we saw during Hurricane Helene and all these various other hurricanes. It all depends on where it's located and what the purpose is, right? What's happening with that particular element. Fire is the same way. Fire can be used to purify, but fire can also burn down Israel, California, Hollywood. All of these things, all of these things are completely subjective to the person and to the situation. You have to look at who you are, what you want to be, and allow growth into that, right? You can stay rigid and never experience growth. And in fact, you'll experience the opposite of growth. In your rigidity comes your death. I would go as far to say that you will stop growing. And if you stop growing, you might as well call it a day. You might as well call it a day. If your beliefs in 10 years are the same as they are today, and they have not evolved to any degree to include any more compassion or understanding, to include any type of overall larger picture understanding of life, then what's the point? What is the point? You are on repeat. Most of us are busy living our lives on repeat already. Yesterday is a carbon copy of the day before. Today is a carbon copy of yesterday. So, what is your growth level? What do you want? Who are you? Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Miriam says so incredibly wonderful how it all falls together. Most definitely. It's all interconnected. Everything is interconnected. All human beings are interconnected. LP says the good and the evil individually, circumstantially, situationally, the good and evil in any case, measured and proportioned. Yeah, it is. There's a balance to it all. We just don't understand that balance. There's a balance to it all. If every, if, and we can only calculate, LP says, and we can only calculate so much before taking a last leap of faith and choosing. Yeah, that's right. And it's still, what is it? It's still a leap of faith, right? It's still a leap of faith. Everything is a leap of faith. And you're always taking the word of someone else. No matter which belief system you choose, you're always going to take the word of someone else. And that's the thing. That's the thing. Whether that person is true or a liar, Doesn't matter. You don't really know, right? You put your belief in them based on what you see them doing, so on and so forth. You have to have some degree of belief slash faith in something every day, right? When you go to bed at night, you have the firm belief that the sun will rise the next day. Even disbelief takes belief in something. I just got to the point where it's exhausting trying to lead people to make a choice when in reality their individual path and their individual journey is going to dictate their choices for them regardless. You can step in to somebody's life and offer them a bit of direction. You can point the way to the truth, but you can't make them see the truth, right? There's an old saying in Tennessee, it may be elsewhere too, but you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. And that's very true. That's very true. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I could sit and tell you all of the truths that I believe to hold dear, but in reality, they may be different tomorrow. They may be different next month, next year. Nothing is, nothing is firm and forever. Like LP said earlier, look at the creation. Right? Everything is so green and beautiful right now. Everything is so bloomed and blossomed. A month and a half ago, everything was dead. Everything changes. Everything recycles. The law of conservation of energy. Does anybody know what that is? The law of conservation of energy. Does anybody know what that means? What that law actually states? It's a law in physics. It's a law in physics. The law of conservation of energy. It's like gravity. Gravity is a law. What goes up must come down, so on and so forth. The law of conservation of energy says that energy is never really destroyed. It only changes forms. It only changes forms. So that's the way everything in nature is, right? When your body dies, it's never really destroyed. It goes into the ground and changes forms, right? You go back to the earth, you become earth once again. That gets recycled. Worms, bugs eat it. A worm may eat part of your body and then travel 1 kilometer where it will lay eggs or fertilize the ground in that area, use the bathroom in that area, cause a flower to raise up. A flower raises up, a bee comes and feeds nectar from it, which goes and produces honey. The honey is then eaten by the bear, who finds its way into the woods with a woman who chose the bear over the man. The law of conservation of energy. Everything is recycled. Everything is interconnected. Say you could take a drop of water and see all of the universe within that drop of water. All of the universe. Heck, you could take uh, a pair of shoes. To me, you could take a pair of shoes. Let me see if I have a pair of shoes around here. You could take anything and see all of the universe within that thing. That's the thing. That's the thing. I could take my other set of beads here, my other necklace here, right? One wooden bead. I could take one wooden bead and see all of the universe within one wooden bead. That wooden bead came from a tree. That tree came from the earth. That earth was fed by the water, by the sun, so on and so forth. That tree was then cut down. The person who cut down that tree was wearing clothing that was produced by so and so in another country. And that person who was producing that clothing was wearing clothing produced either by their own people or by some other people, right? They were wearing shoes where the rubber was produced in some forest far off, right? You can see the entirety of the universe within anything if you look close enough, and the interconnected nature of everything. Yet we're walking around hating on each other, trying to convince each other why you're wrong and I'm right, and why I'm right or I'm wrong and you're right, or whatever the case may be. We don't stop to think enough because we're too busy being bombarded by all these distractions and all of these labels that we're putting on ourselves. We're labeling the hell out of ourselves and we're wondering why we're mad all the time. I don't understand. Why am I so unhappy? Why am I so angry? Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. You're miserable because you're placing expectations and labels and attachments onto yourself and then blaming everybody else for it. It's the ultimate gaslighting technique. We're gaslighting ourselves. We're gaslighting ourselves when you really think about it, and it's hilarious. When you break it down and you really think about it, we're gaslighting ourselves. We've convinced ourselves that we are this solid thing, this set of beliefs, and anything that challenges our set of beliefs, anything that challenges this solidity, we're going to fight that. We're going to fight that verbally, physically, whatever we have to do to prove that we are who we say we are. When in reality, just being a human being and being in existence is enough. But you've been convinced that you have to be something else. You have to be something greater, something more. But you're not willing to open yourself to the possibilities so that the possibilities can come in. Because you're too busy defending those rigid beliefs of who you think you are. You can't be who you're meant to be because you're too busy defending who you think you actually already are. You want some type of growth, but you're unwilling to open the door to possibility. Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Like the story, the man who went to the master, he wanted him to teach me how to become enlightened. Right? The master poured the water in the cup. He kept pouring and pouring and pouring. The water started filling up, and he said it's just like this. Your cup is already full. You can't take from me because your cup is full. You're full of who you think you already are. And how can I work with somebody who thinks that they're already full? And that is a massive hornet in the house. That massive hornet just went back outside for now. Whew. He's just trying to, he's just, hornet does. Just, bzz, bzz, just buzzing around. You know? Hornet's just being a hornet. You ever see a bird try to act like a dog? You ever see a lion try to act like a elephant? Or an elephant try to act like a monkey? No, but we're all busy trying to be something that we're not, that we're told we're supposed to be busy trying to be something. Why am I upset? Damn, what's going on with myself? Why am I angry? Because you don't know who you are. You think you're all these things, but in reality, you're not. You're two things for certain, or at least I think you are. You're a human being and you're conscious. Trying to keep an eye out for this bee. That's what I'm doing for this hornet. One thing's for certain, I don't want to get stung by that if I can prevent it, right? That hornet doesn't know that he's going to be stinging me, and that's the thing about nature. A bear, when a bear eats you, when a bear eats you, he has no feelings about it. He's not mad at you because he's eating you. He's being a bear. He's being a bear. When a bee stings you, you're gonna be mad at the bee for being a bee, but you're gonna be mad at other people for being people, doing what they're taught to do. We have our preferences, we have our likes and our dislikes. Those are labels too. All of our biases, right? Our biases. We all have biases. I like motorcycles. I like cars. I like this truck. I like that truck. So on and so forth. All of these things are placed on us by the people around us, by the culture that we grow up in. things that we should be thinking about. We should be thinking about. Do you think a black bear wakes up and goes, "Man, I wish my fur was brown." So he strives every day to try and be a brown bear? No, he's a black bear. He just lives his life being a black bear. That's it. He acts like a black bear does. You think a polar bear wakes up and tries to be a black bear? No, because he knows he's a polar bear. He doesn't want anything to do with the Appalachian Mountains. He wants to do with Antarctica, cold climates, right? That's the thing. What are you going to be? What are you going to be? Or are you just going to continue to feel sorry for yourself? Be a human being. Don't be so fast to label yourselves. Don't be so fast to identify and close the door to possibilities. There are some identities that we put on ourselves to make our day to day life better and easier, and I know that. Everybody should know that. That's just common sense, right? I can't wake up in the morning, for example, and say, I'm, I'm a scuba diver. I know nothing about scuba diving. Chances are I'm going to get eaten by a shark, or I'm going to I'm going to suffocate to death underwater because I know nothing of scuba diving. So you have to live within the limitations. Does that mean that I cannot become a scuba diver? No. Of course I can. I can train very well to become a scuba diver. I can make scuba my whole life. I can get little salt life stickers and put all over my car and buy fancy shirts, scuba or die and things like that. But the reality of it is that will just be another identity that I've created for myself. And as I begin to identify with that, anything that challenges that is going to cause me pain. If I believe that it's, scuba diver way of life and that's it, if I'm a surfer die kind of guy, somebody tells me the desert's the best place to live, well, I'm going to argue with them that it's not the best place to live. And that's going to cause me some type of dissatisfaction too. That old saying, live and let live, really has some truth to it. Live and let live. That doesn't mean you shouldn't stand for anything. It doesn't mean that, you don't have to be who you want to be, whatever you think that might be. But I just want you to question it. I want you to question it. Why do you believe that? I want to question it for myself. Why do I believe the way that I believe? Why is my identity the way that I think it should be, the way that it is right now? Why do I think it's that way? It should be that way. And until you do that, I don't believe that you're really going to have any forward growth or any type of transformation or evolution in who you are. You're going to be stuck doing the same things day after day and feeling exactly the same. Granted, you can continue to do the same things every day. You can have the same job, same family, so on and so forth, and still have growth and transformation and evolution of who you are as a human being because you'll begin to have a shift in your perspective. And that's ultimately what the main goal should be, is to have a shift in your perspective so that you learn to value other things outside of your value system. That's why I encourage having conversations with people of opposite beliefs, opposite faiths, opposite heights, weights, so on and so forth, because you need to challenge the way that you view everything. Confront yourself, yes. Confront yourself. Most people are unwilling to do that. Most people are unwilling to do that because the identities that we form have protected us for so long, right? They've protected us for so long. They've gotten us this far, right? You worry, well, I don't want to change. I don't want to talk about, for me for example, your ego tries to tell you, I don't want to talk about this particular thing, for example, because I've based my channel, I've based all my following, I've based my belief system on such and such so far. And for me to challenge this status quo for me could be a death sentence. And that's what the ego tells you. But are you being true to the self and your growth if you do not speak out on the things that you feel to be quote unquote truth inducing? LP says, well, I've been battling. What have you been battling? Let's talk about it. Let's ask the tough questions. Why not? Why not? Right? Why not ask the tough questions? What have you been battling? What have you been battling? I think we all have some type of battle. Battle. Well, he says, I've been battling, but Allah has shown me his signs and promised me this. Well, there you go. Then that's where you're at with your particular walk and your particular belief, right? And if something reinforces that, then you'll continue to hold firm to it like anything else. Like anything else. You know, you could say, I have been the most devout, this, that, and the other. Right? I've offered all my salah, I've this, that, and the other. I've done everything that I should have been doing. I haven't been doing anything I shouldn't be doing according to this teaching and that teaching, but I still lost my job, right? I still my husband left me, my wife left me, my kid died, so on and so forth. And then you begin to question these things. Well, if I'm doing everything right, what type of reward system is it if these things are happening to me? And then that will make you have a whole nother set of questions. But I encourage you to question all of these things. I encourage that. I think that growth is only induced by questioning and challenging. It's like anything else, but you have to ask real questions and give real answers, whether they make you comfortable or uncomfortable. It doesn't matter. The truth of the matter is, no matter how much you say you believe in this, that, or the other, the truth is you don't really know. You don't really know, and that, in and of itself, causes people anxiety. The unknown, right? The unknown. No matter what religious path you follow, you're still following a path set forth by somebody else, right? You're still following a path, religiously speaking, set forth by somebody else. And with that comes a little bit of the unknown, regardless of who the person is or what the book is, so on and so forth. You're still dwelling or dealing in the unknown. And that causes anxiety too. So the best that you hope for, the best that you have is hope. You can hope for the best, right? Beliefs are based on unseen evidence. Unseen evidence, right? Evidence is something that is seen that points a direct particular way, but belief is based on unseen evidence, right? Things that we hope for to be true. And that gets heavy. That gets heavy, and that challenges a lot of people's worldview and a lot of people's life view and a lot of people's afterlife view. Anybody, anything. Anybody, anything. Anybody, anything. LP says certain verses bring me back to focus, like of knowledge, mankind has been given only a little. Yeah, that gives you focus because you can weigh that and measure that by your own standard. And you can say, I have knowledge of, you may be the world's best mechanic. You may be the best mechanic in the entire world, right? You have went to the mechanic world championship and they have found you to be the best mechanic in the entire world. And you may have complete knowledge of that, but you have no knowledge of a drop of water. And the elements contained within a drop of water. You say it's H2O, H2O, two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom, right? But nobody really knows what it is. Nobody really knows what a oxygen atom is or a hydrogen atom is. Your knowledge is limited, and you can weigh that verse by your own experience and say that that resonates with you. And likewise, other faiths, other denominations, they will weigh verses that resonate with them based on their own world experience and their own life experience. So, while that may be true for you, it may not necessarily be true for somebody else, right? And how does that make you feel? Whenever you experience that and they say, well, that's good for you, but it's not good for me, for example. How does that make you feel when you weigh that against somebody else's belief system? I don't know what the talking heads are. I don't know what that means. Quack quack. Is that it? uh, Maybe you're just letting me know you're still listening. Possibly. Quack quack. uh, who knows? Let's see. Why it won't let me do that here? Interesting. Well, the big question is, what are any of us doing? What are any of us doing? What are we doing? We're doing what we think we're supposed to be doing, right? Based on what we're taught. No clue. That's the thing. Nobody has any idea. It's very true. It's very true. Nobody has any idea, but we all think we do. Fake it till you make it, right? You fake it till you make it. The best you can do is hope for you find a group that accepts you, right? You try to fit in with their beliefs, try to mix and match with them, blend in with them, take on somebody else's beliefs, take on somebody else's role. This is who I am. This is who I am not. It's mind blowing to me. Mind blowing. Nobody has any questions or comments, huh? Feel free. Feel free to ask. Or do we all have it all figured out? We don't want to ask anything because we already have all the answers. Well, I'm not gonna ask him anything. I already know. I know where I stand. I know who I am. but you don't. The minute something challenges who you think you are, you're going to get mad. Dun dun dun. Dun 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 dun. Oh, that's not on there. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already, by the way. Give it a big thumbs up. Give it a big thumbs up now that I've made everybody mad. Made them quit. It's okay to be mad sometimes. Trying to scroll down here. That's the thing. That's the thing. I don't care if it makes you mad. I don't care if it, I don't care. It's not supposed to make you happy. Questioning yourself is never an easy thing. But if you want truth in the rawest sense of the term truth, then you have to question everything. Can't continue to walk through life thinking you know everything. It's okay to say I don't know. It's okay to say I hate that today, but I might like it tomorrow. That's the thing. Thank you, Yakub. Thank you. Hopefully it helped to some degree. You know, hopefully it helps somebody to some degree to question these things. And the thing is you're going to be labeled as right and you're going to be labeled as wrong. But these are just more labels that people are going to put on you, and they're going to do that based on their own comfort level with who they actually are. But you have to not live for them. You have to live for you. You know, you have to live for you and your own truth in your day to day life. Do you want your life to be good or do you want it to be full of misery and suffering? Right. That's the ultimate question because you can have it good or bad. It's totally dependent upon the choices that you make and what you choose to identify with. Thank you. God bless you too. Miriam says, get comfortable being uncomfortable right now. Yes, you should. You should. You may not. You may not love the thing that you today that you or tomorrow that you love today. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy, but it's true. Oh, new sub. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I used to go live all the time, Yakub. I used to go live all the time, and then my work schedule changed, and I wasn't able to go live as often. Um, and now my work schedule's changed again, so I'm going to try to up my lives to more regularly. Where are you located in the world? That will probably affect, whether or not you're able to catch me live as much, depending on where you're at, East Coast, West Coast, middle of the country, across the world. Denmark. Oh, Europe. Okay. Okay. So it's right now where I'm at, it's 1:22 p.m. So what time is it where you're at? Listen, not judging you here, but never. Oh, it's almost 8 p.m. Okay. Okay. You're 7 hours ahead of me then. Six and a half. So, yeah. Never in the history of Everdom have I seen somebody say, "I want to move to Detroit." So there has to be a fantastic reason for that. You can have your own your own reasons for that. Did I look for a watch on my wrist? No, I was looking at my bracelet. I quit wearing watches a long time ago because every time I buy a watch, the hands quit working like almost immediately. My mom said that it's been that way my whole life. Anytime I get a watch and wear it, it's like 24 to 48 hours. They usually quit working. Oh, okay. Okay. A trucking company. Well, that's a good reason then. That's a good reason. If you need a dispatcher, I'm your Huckleberry. I'll be happy to be a dispatcher. I grew up around trucks and truck drivers. My mom was a truck driver. My stepdad was a truck driver. All of that stuff. You can do that remotely. You're going to do refrigerated or non-refrigerated. Or are you going to do like a box truck? Like a box truck, you could do small loads locally. Not sure. So you're in the planning phase right now. You're still in the planning phase. That's good though. You got a plan, right? You got a plan. And that goes along too, another label, right? Somebody else might see that and they go, "Oh, it's a terrible idea. You should not do that." You know, there's so much hassle and there's so much expenses, yada 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 yada. It's another label. You'll own your own trucking company and you'll say, "I'm a trucking company. I'm a trucking company owner. That's who I am." Oh, you've been subscribed. Ah, yay. I thought you have. I thought you had, but I wasn't for sure. Well, I hope that your trucking company comes to fruition sooner rather than later. Detroit is really, from what I know of Detroit, though, it's really like went downhill. I know that you said that there's a Muslim community there. There's Dearborn, a huge Muslim community. Oh, I disconnected momentarily there. Much love to you too. Thanks for joining today. Thanks for joining. I hope I got my point across in a little hour and 14 minutes here that we've been going. I'm about to wrap it up, cut this short, but I just wanted to touch base on who are we? Who are we? Who are we really versus who do we think we are? Right? You got to question all of these things. Question all of these things and don't let these identities that you put on yourself limit your growth. That's the main thing. That's the main thing. If anybody takes away, I want from this conversation, I want us to say, why do I believe what I believe? Is it because of how I was raised and the things that I grew up around? Or is it because I have weighed and measured this and found it to be true for myself? If you haven't actually weighed and measured it and found that it brings your life contentment and peace and happiness, then you might want to discard it. You might want to discard it. Not telling you what to do, saying that there are possibilities out there and there are things that you've not even considered letting go of or adopting onto yourself because this goes against the status quo of your current environment. Of your current environment. I know people who go to church regularly, they attend church regularly. And then when you face them with evidence of inconsistencies within their own Bible, they will still, this is the truth. This is the truth. They never question, just know that they believe it because it's how I was raised so much. And I'm sure it's the same way within Muslim communities, different, Hindu communities, whatever the case may be. People get raised to believe certain things are religiously accepted when in fact they're culturally accepted and pawned off as religion, no matter what your belief is, and they never question them. And then when somebody else poses the question to them, they get offended by it. Brother, you're stepping outside of the fold of Islam, or you're stepping outside the fold of Christianity, or you're stepping outside the fold of Hinduism or Buddhism or whatever it is, right? Just because you ask questions, because you want the truth in the absolute sense of the term. But what you'll find is that truth changes as you age. Truth changes based on your experience. Truth changes based on your environment, even on your environment. If you're a normal, everyday person and you have a car accident, you take somebody's life and they put you in prison, you suddenly will become a different person, right? We all think we have these strong held beliefs and we cling to these identities, and then that identity changes when you look into the eyes of your enemy, right? It can change when you look into the eyes of a newborn baby. You may say that, I'm a Muslim and I hate Zionists, for example. But then when you look into the eyes of a newborn Zionist baby, what happened? Your hate went out the window. Now all of a sudden, all you see is a baby because you're seeing things for what they actually are versus the label that you put on them. Everything is labeled. Everything is labeled. You may say, I hate homosexuals until a homosexual saves your life or saves your kid's life, right? They may be drowning in a swimming pool, and that may be the person that saves your child's life. You may say, I hate Christians, and a Christian may give you food when you're hungry, you're starving. You may say, I hate Muslims, but a Muslim may be the very one who protects your wife or your daughter when they're out, and something happens. Basing all these beliefs and limiting all these possibilities out of our own ignorance, out of our own self-hatred. And it's a form of self-hatred is what it is, and it's manifesting its ugly head in the way that we treat others. It's a self-hatred. And the truth of the matter is because we don't really know who we are. All we know is we are labels. We're labels. We get mad when anything challenges our labels. So I highly recommend everybody question their labels. And I'll be expecting a 5-page report on this. Let me know who you think you are, or at least leave a comment and let me know who you think you are. You know, and I hope everybody sees this. I hope you guys share this so that people will question it, and then they can leave bad comments. And that's okay. Because for every bad comment that gets left, guess what? Somebody's gonna say, "That's right. That's right. I agree with that bad comment." I don't even get mad about this stuff anymore. Ira, walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Always joining when I'm about to leave. Always joining when I'm about to leave. How do you have the uncanny ability to sign in every time when I'm done? It's like it never fails. And usually I was like, dang it, you're leaving now that I'm here. Ira done. Ira done left. I think. Ira said he's leaving. I ain't wasting my time. Well, that's all I got for now. So be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Share the content across your platforms so that somebody else may benefit from asking. Ira, ah, yeah, Ira coming through. Ira coming through with the super thanks as an apology. Big love, Ira. Big love. I hope you get to. I hope you get to go back and watch the live and share the live. Oh, now you're moving to Turkey. I thought you were moving to Afghanistan. What happened to that? Is entry is oh okay, okay. Entry is a little bit more difficult into Afghanistan. I was there you go. Just get a map like they do on the movies and throw a dart. Wherever it lands, that's where you're going. Right? Wherever it lands, that's where you're going. That's what I would do. What if it lands on the US? Then what? Then what? Can't move there, right? You say I would throw it again. Yeah. It's bad, right? All bad. All bad. It's not bad. It's not bad. Reminds me it reminds me of a story I read, and I don't know the particulars of this story, but there was a man. Ah, new member, Yakub. Thank you, my brother, for your membership. That is great. Big love, big love. But it reminds me of a story that I read, and I don't remember the particulars on this, but I want to spill it out the best that I can anyway. And there was a man and his son, and his son was breaking horses for him. And this is back in the days of kings and castles. And the young man broke his leg while he was breaking horses. And all the villagers heard about the boy breaking his leg, so they came to the old man's house to give their sympathy for his son breaking his leg. You know, oh, we heard about what happened to Junior, and he broke his leg, and that's terrible. That's terrible. You know, so sorry to hear that. And he said, maybe, maybe, right? So the next day, the king of that land, he comes around looking for all able-bodied males to go to war because there was a war coming up just on the outskirts of the town. The boy's leg was broke, so he couldn't go to war. So the villagers all came by later. You know, it's so great that Junior didn't have to go to war because of his leg being broke, so on and so forth. And he said, the old man said, maybe, maybe. So a few weeks go by, the young man starts to get better. As he starts to heal, starts to get a little bit more confident, starts to go out and break horses again. Breaks a horse, takes it out on the trail, comes across a snake on the trail. Horse rears back, throws him, kills him, breaks his neck. All the villagers come again, give their condolences for the old man's loss, so on and so forth. So sorry to hear about your son, etc., etc. So terrible. Old man says maybe, and that's the way it is in life. It's maybe, 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 right? Maybe, maybe, maybe. You just never know. What could be viewed as bad is viewed by, as good as some other to some other people. What's viewed as good is bad to some other people. It's all dependent upon it. Cool says you're very welcome. You deserve 100 more for the mindset you're building. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the love and support. Real talk. I really appreciate it. Again, please be sure to share this link, man. Share this link if you can. You know, yes, it is a great compliment. And yeah, thank you, Iris. It is an amazing story. I don't remember exactly where I heard that, but it's all a matter of perspective, right? For example, like you said, you would throw that dart again so that you could find somewhere else to move, right? Yet Yakub is in the process of moving to the US so that he can start a trucking business. So it's all dependent upon circumstances and what we think, right? What our environment has proved to us is good or bad, and what our opportunities may be elsewhere. So you guys could swap. You guys could swap perhaps. And you could go to Denmark to Europe and find peace and happiness and success there while Yakub comes to where you're at and find peace, success, and happiness where you're at. Maybe. It's all about maybe. Just never know. It's all a matter of perspective. Iris said, let me move in with you instead, mashallah. I would drive you question. I would drive you crazy with my questions, Ira. I would drive you would tell me I'm gonna do this, that, or the other, and I would say, well, why do you think that's the best route? Uh, why do you think that's the best route? Do you believe that this will benefit you more? We all have answers, right? He said, I have answers. That's the thing. We don't ask questions most of the time because we think we already know. Our cups are full. Our cups are so full that we can't learn anything sometimes. I can't remember if it was Socrates or if it was Plato or who it was that said, I'm the smartest man alive. For all I know is that I know nothing. The more you know, the more you realize, the less you actually know. That's the paradox of knowledge and wisdom. As you start to gain this knowledge and gain this wisdom, and then you realize that what you thought you knew before is not in reality how things actually are. That's the beautiful paradox of it. And that's part of the human condition. But our intellect has evolved so quickly that we've taken on all of these roles so fast that it's it's paradoxically limited our growth. This one can find peace. This one can find peace. This one can find contentment and happiness. But you just have to know how to do it. You just have to know what to let go of and what to hold on to. And that's up to you. That's up to you. Just like your salvation is up to you. You'll figure it out. Miriam says, "Happy Mother's Day to all the good dads that take their kids' lives in their hands." Yeah, most definitely, most definitely, and to the mothers.